What's going on, everyone? Michael Pasha here. And today I wanted to talk about something that I think is interesting debate that people often have is content marketing versus paid advertising. Which one's better? Which one should you use? When is one appropriate? When is another one appropriate? And so I did a video last week about content marketing and what it was, and essentially for anyone who didn't see it, content marketing, anyone who's not familiar with it, is just creating content designed to attract your target audience. So writing blog posts, creating YouTube videos, creating podcasts around topics that your target market would be interested in. So if you're someone who is a home designer, or you're an interior decorator and you have a show about interior decorating and you're giving people tips on your YouTube channel about, hey, you could do this with this section of the room, or this what you do with, your kitchen to, allow you to have more space. And people who are interested in potentially designing their homes or maybe even hiring you for your services will look at that video, and one, they'll see you as an authority. Two, they'll see you as someone with really good ideas. And then also it will inspire them to want to potentially hire you for your work. And then, at the end of the video or end of the podcast or end of the blog post, you have some sort of call to action that allows them to get on your email list so you can follow up with them later, or even send them to a page to schedule a call to get on the phone with you and talk to you about your services and see if you can help them in any way. So that's content marketing. And that works great. The problem with content marketing is if you're in a position where you're trying to ramp up and do things quickly, it takes a while to get traction with content marketing, because it takes a while for people to find you. If you're going out there, and this is another thing that's interesting about content marketing, is a lot of people are afraid to do it. If they're not already doing it, they're afraid to write blog posts, they're afraid to write, to do a podcast. They don't want to put themselves out there in a video. They feel like they might be embarrassed. But the great thing about it is actually in the beginning, in that initial phase, while you're still getting used to it, it's actually a good thing, because no one's going to be reading your blog post, because no one's going to know about it, right? I mean, it's not like you put out something on the internet and all of a sudden, floods of people come and read your post, watch your YouTube video. Yes, people have access to it, but no one's going to know about it in the beginning, unless you tell them about it. So that's a gift and a curse. It's a gift because if you're scared and you're worried about people, seeing you when you're still ramping up and not polished yet, you really don't have to worry about that, because you'll probably only have, maybe one or two people, and those one or two people will probably be like, your spouse or your mom or, someone you already told about it, close friend. And then you'll have to do things to build up the audience. So that's the gift there if you're worried about not looking polished, and it gives you time to get polished. The more you do it, the more you write. If you're not a really great writer right now, the more you do podcast, either episodes and you're talking yourself or you're interviewing other people, you'll get better as an interviewer. And the more you create videos, the better you'll get at it. You'll look at your old videos and you'll say, oh, I could have done this. And you'll look at someone else's video and you'll get ideas. And putting yourself out there is the best way to get better and ramp up, because the more you do it, and that's why I really encourage anyone thinking about doing this sort of stuff to just get started, like literally today. Like, don't wait until you feel like, things are perfect. Just get started and just start putting out content, because it's not until you actually start putting things out there that you start improving and figuring out like what's not working and what you should be doing better and getting more comfortable doing it. A lot of people spend so much time kind of in the learning phase and in the phase of like trying to perfect things before they put things out there, and really it's putting it out there that really helps you perfect quicker, because you're like, I don't want anyone to see how bad I am, so let me get better fast, and it puts a fire under you to get better fast. So that's content marketing. Paid advertising is a great tool for someone who's looking to get results fast. Now, content marketing, for the most part, unless you're hiring someone to do your content for you, is free, right? It doesn't cost you anything to write a blog post. I mean, yeah, you set up a blog and maybe you have to pay a hosting fee for to host your site, and a fee to for your URL you purchase, but that's really, really nominal. I mean, we're talking about $10 a year for your URL, and $5 a month for a hosting service, depending on what kind of hosting service you're using. If you're going to get someone to design a website for you, that could be a little bit more expensive, but even that's like a one-time fee for the setup, and then you may be paying a monthly fee for maintenance. But I would say anybody who's trying to get started right away with a blog, don't even go that route, and just build the site yourself. Go to Thrive Themes or something like that, and then buy a WordPress theme and use that to start out your blog. YouTube is free, right? And then so is doing a podcast. I mean, you just need the equipment, and you don't even really need anything that's super fancy in the beginning to get started. YouTube, you can really get started with your smartphone. So just an encouragement to get started now if you're thinking about that, and that's something that you feel like you eventually want to do. So on to paid advertising. So paid advertising essentially is Google, pay-per-click, Facebook ads, Snapchat ads, Instagram ads, Twitter ads, any sort of social media advertising, digital advertising online. And the great thing about it is these companies track the data really, really, really closely. So exactly how much money you're spending and how many people actually clicked on whatever advertising you put out there. So it tells you, okay, I spent, $50. Let's say you have a small budget. You spent $50 on an ad. You know exactly how many people clicked on it, and then you can see exactly how many people were actually interested in the offer that you put out there. And so just to kind of break down the components of a paid ad, really comes down to the audience that you're targeting, which is another great thing about paid advertising, is that you can target a very, very specific audience. Now, every channel that you use, and when I say channel, I mean what platform. Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Is it Instagram? Is it Google AdWords? They have different ways of measuring an audience and finding an audience, and different demographic information that they capture, and behavioral information that they capture. So your options for picking a target audience will be different with different platforms. But for the most part, you can do things like traffic, specifically target your ad to people who live in a particular geographic location. So you can even say like, hey, if you're a dentist, for example, you can say, I want to advertise to people who are 10 miles from my office, and only people who are in that radius. You can say, hey, I only want to advertise to men, or I only want to advertise to women. Or in the case of, and this also is, like I said, very platform specific. It's a lot easier to do that demographic breakout in terms of specifically targeting genders and ages when you're doing it on a platform like Facebook, which captures that information. So the platform has to capture that information. Essentially, that's why Facebook asks you all this stuff about yourself. Where do you live? Where do you work? What kind of things do you like? Who are you friends with? These sort of behavioral things, which shows do you watch, that helps advertisers like you and I figure out, okay, well, who's more likely to be interested in my product or service based on those sort of demographic or psychographic criteria. And so, and that's the great thing about paid advertising. You could do much more targeted ads. The other thing about paid advertising, you can actually use paid advertising to accelerate the process of getting your content marketing viewed by more people. So you can do a paid ad, and then you could be advertising a product or service directly, having an offer that you're putting out to someone. For your product or service, but you can also leverage it to do content marketing. So you can do a YouTube video, and then you can do an ad that promotes the YouTube video so that people know it's out there. Or you can do the same thing with a blog post. You can do an ad that promotes your blog post so you bring more people to it. Or you do a podcast episode. And so one of the things that I did with my podcast was I had guests on there, and I would create an ad and target the ad to that specific person's audience, which is another thing that you can do. Now, you can't do this with everyone because some people block it so that you can't target their audience. But like, for example, I did a podcast with someone who a lot of people in the podcasting area know. His name is John Lee Dumas. And when I interviewed him on my podcast to get more listeners going to that episode, I posted it on social media and I did that typical stuff. But then I also created a paid ad and targeted the paid ad to people who already like him. So he has a Facebook page, he has a following already on social media, and I targeted my ad only to people who have already said they like this person. So then I'm not wasting money showing the ad to people who don't care about him. And then they'll be like, hey, I like this guy. I want to see what he said on this interview, so it brings more traffic to my podcast. So content marketing is something that can take a long time. It can take 6 months for people to find your blog post or your YouTube video or whatever. It can take a year, depending on how much time and effort you're putting into building up that audience. Whereas paid advertising, you can get results right away. You can get sales right away. You can get, yes, you have to pay money directly for it. So that is, but it's like, what do you have more of? Do you have more time or you have more money? If you have more time, you could try the content marketing route. If you have more money, then you just want to cut your learning curve, or not learning curve, but your ramp up period, the time that it takes for you to get potential customers, and paid advertising is definitely the way to go. But the ideal state for your business is when you get to a point where you can do both, right? You have a long-term strategy, which is the content marketing, and you have a short-term strategy, which is the paid ads. And you're using them together in conjunction to really drive people to your products and services. And they're seeing you kind of all over the place, right? You're on YouTube and you're on your podcast and you're on paid ads, and they see you, just kind of everywhere they're going, they're seeing you, and you're retargeting them with different ads, and it's like everywhere they go, they can't get away from you. And then, you're top of mind. So whenever they start thinking, hey, I'm at a point where I really need this service right now, who should I hire? Well, it's going to be you, because they have already, they've been exposed to you. They kind of see the work that you do. And because of that, they've been, hey, Will, what's up, man? Thanks for joining. Because of that, they have the ability to now find you, and they trust you, and they like you. And you can do this with a whole lot of different things outside of just your service. I've seen people use paid ads to get jobs before, right? Which is super interesting. So, for example, what they did was they said, I want a job at a particular company. They targeted the ad to people who work at that company, who were in positions that they will be interested in. So you have a really, really small audience there, but that's what you want. And then they created a video talking about their capabilities and what they could do for that particular employer, right? Something that I'm sure this employer is not used to seeing. And you can do the same thing for getting a particular client. If you're looking to get a specific client, you can run ads to that specific client. So instead of reaching out to them just through things like email and reaching out to them just through things like cold calling, you can create an ad and run that ad and target that either individual or at least that company, and then attract them that way. And then that way, it's something that they're not used to seeing. It's a pattern interrupt. It's like no one else is really doing this, so you stand out in the crowd. You're not just a Me Too person, doing the exact same thing as everyone else. And so that's kind of my rundown of paid advertising versus content marketing. I think they're both great. I think they both have their specific use cases. And as I said, once you really ramp up your business, you really want to be doing both. But it really kind of comes down to, in the beginning, if you're trying to figure out which one to do and you only have the resources to do one or the other, do you have more time than money? And if that's the case, then content marketing is the place to go. Do you have more money than time? Then paid advertising is the way to go. But eventually you want to start doing both. So thanks a lot. Let me know if you have any questions. Put them in the comments below. And cheers and happy marketing.